Hi everybody, it's Mr. Boll here. We're carrying on with our series of lessons about the climate. Okay, this is Year 3, Unit 1, Geography Unit 1. I know we'll be doing some history. And this week we're looking at the climate in the desert. Okay, last week we looked at the coldest places on Earth, and now we're going to look at the hottest. Now here's a picture of a desert. It's a very famous desert that you've probably heard of called the Sahara, which is in the north part of Africa. And when you first look at this picture, well, you might just think it looks like a load of sand dunes and it could be down at the beach. But if you look more closely, if you look at here are some people who are walking along a trail. There's a couple of people there. And I think that helps you to get the idea of how big the Sahara Desert is. Okay, it's a massive area across the whole of North Africa. Here are some facts about deserts. The hottest ever temperature recorded on Earth was in Death Valley, California, in the United States of America. And that's in a desert called the Mojave Desert, which we're going to find today. And that temperature was 56.7 degrees. And if you think that a very hot summer day in Britain, it would be very unusual if it got over 30 degrees. So that's another 26 degrees hotter than that. And humans would struggle to survive in that temperature. Death Valley and the Mojave is the hottest, but it's not the biggest desert. The biggest desert is the Sahara. It's so big, it's actually in 12 different countries. Oh yeah, here we go. I forgot to mention this. You might recognize this, or your parents will. Some of the Star Wars films, bits of them, were filmed in Death Valley in California. The Sahara is in 12 different countries. The driest place in the world is the Atacama Desert, which we're also going to find today. And that is in South America. Like last week, even though the conditions are very extreme, some animals and plants can live in them. So as you know about cactus or cacti, they can survive in deserts. They're adapted to live in deserts. They can conserve their water and not lose it during the hot, sunny days. And some animals, such as lizards and foxes, and we're going to look at a few others, they can survive in the desert as well. Desert is not brilliant for humans. There's a lack of water, obviously, very high daytime temperatures, but it often gets very, very cold, below freezing at night. That's because there's no cloud cover to keep any of the warmth in, and so it just dissipates straight away. So deserts can be very dangerous for humans. That's why this one is called Death Valley, because in the old days, it's common for people to get stuck there, get lost there, and to actually die. So today's lesson, we're understanding where the world's deserts are, and we're actually going to choose 7, which we're going to find on Google Earth. And we're going to also be looking at some of the animals and creatures that can survive in the desert climate. And we're going to be thinking about how have they been adapted so that they can survive. Okay. So here is a map of the world's climate zones. We looked at this once before in the first week. And let's just find us. Here's the UK here. And you can see that we're coloured in green, which means, as you'll remember this word, we have a temperate climate. So it's not too hot like a desert, and it's not too cold like the Arctic or the Antarctic. So here we're looking at today the deserts of the world. This is the Sahara, okay, and this is actually a separate one. It's called the Arabian Desert over here. And then you'll see there's the Mojave in America, and there's a big desert in Australia, which I'm going to get you to find today as well. So you can see there's desert there. We're going to find that one. Okay, so there are various places in the world where the climate zone is the same, roughly the same as a desert. Okay, now task number 1. You're going to find these 7 deserts. Here they are: the Sahara Desert, the Simpson, the Thar Desert, Mojave, Kalahari, the Atacama, and the Arabian Desert. Okay, now I'll give you a couple of clues. The Kalahari is in Africa. This is Africa. Well, I'm not going to tell you where because you're going to find it on Google Earth. And the Atacama is the one that's in South America. Here's South America here. Okay, now you can use this map, which I'm putting on our website. You can print it out. But if you can't do that because of any reason the printer's not working, don't worry. You're just going to draw one like I've done here. Okay. Oh, sorry. Before we do that, we're going to show you how to label your desert. So when you find the Sahara, you just write a nice label on there, nice and clear with a capital letter. Okay. And then you're going to put an arrow to where it is. Now, if your printer's not working, don't worry. You're just going to draw a picture. And this is one that I did, and I did it very quickly. It took me less than 5 minutes. Okay, here's North America, South America, Africa, etc. There's the United Kingdom. There's Australia. And you'll see, you might think, oh, that's rubbish. But I don't want you to spend a long time doing a work of art, a picture of the world, necessarily, because the main thing we're doing is geography. Okay, so when you find the Sahara, just exactly the same, mark it like that. So now to find the 7 deserts that I mentioned, okay, we're going to use Google Earth. So now we're going to use, you've got the hang of this, and I had lots of messages from people last week saying that they really enjoyed it, which is brilliant. So off we go to Google Earth. But as you know, it takes a little while to load, so we're going to go back to one that I've already got ready. Here it is. Now, this week, the way I want you to look at Google Earth, let's just rotate it around. First thing we want to do is find where we live. There we go. Okay, so here's the United Kingdom. Yep. And this is the Arctic area that we were looking at last week. So we're going to have a slightly different map style this week. So we click this little diagram. And you'll notice last week I used this one, the clean. But this week I do want the borders for the different countries. So I'm going to go to Customize. And when I click it, I've got all these options here. Okay, so borders gives me, if I click the drop down arrow for borders, I can get the label, I can tick countries. Okay, and when I tick countries, there'll be a little bit more detail on my map. Okay, but I don't need anything else. I don't need the states or all this stuff here. I don't need any of that. So just tick the countries. Okay, and then when you come back out of there, and we get in a little bit closer, there we go. Now you'll see these white lines, okay, and they're the borders between the different countries. So let's have a little test. Here's the United Kingdom. There's Ireland. What's this white line here? Can you say out loud why it's there? Okay, so you probably got that one. This is Northern Ireland, which is part of the United Kingdom, but Southern Ireland is a separate country. Okay, so that's why that's there. This is France. Down here is Spain. Over there is Portugal. You might have been to some of these places. There's Italy. There's Germany. So each of these lines is a separate country. Right, so that's what the type of map we're going to look at today. Let's just go on a search and we'll see. There's something I want you to notice that you can do. So if we search for, let's say, the Arabian Desert, and I've typed this in earlier, so off we go. Now, it may take us in a little bit too close, so we might just stop it. There we go, by clicking. And so what I did there, that stopped me going right the way in and going in a bit too far, because then I don't really know where I am. So now I can see where I am. I can maybe want to come out even again a little bit further. So I just use this zoom out button here, and then I can see the Arabian Desert is this bit, and then I go back to my map. Okay, it might be a homemade one like this one, or it might be a one off of the schools. Here it is. That's the Arabian Desert. So I'll put my mark on there. Okay, so you're going to be able to find all of those deserts and mark them on a map. And that's task number 1, is to do that and then send me a photograph of what you've done. Okay, now, second thing, we're going to find out about some of the creatures that can live in the extreme conditions of a desert. Here's a camel, and I'm sure you know that they are able to live without having much water. Okay, they drink water, and then they can store it. Okay, and then they can carry on day after day, and then once they get to in the desert, sometimes you get a place where there is some water called an oasis, and then they drink up and store loads of water, and they can carry on again. So they've always been used for traveling, for carrying either people or things that people are going to sell. For thousands of years, they've been used as a creature that can survive in the desert. Okay, but there's some other creatures, like here's a fox. So as you can see here, it's got much bigger ears than a fox that you would find in Britain. And so why is that? Well, the reason is there's not much to eat in the desert, and these ears mean that they can hear for a very, very long distance, and they'll be able to find something that another creature might not be able to find. So this and the camel, they have ways in which they're adapted to live in the desert. Here's some more creatures that like the desert. Scorpion, Sidewinder. This is the one I'm choosing. I'm going to show you a waggle paragraph about the Sidewinder that's like the one I want you to write. And so I had to find out which deserts you can find it in. And you don't get it in the Sahara. Okay, you only get it here in the Mojave, and in these, there's another desert area that spreads down into Mexico from here where it starts in the United States. Okay, now here's some other creatures. You can choose any of these, or you can choose one of your own. Okay, don't choose your cat Tibbles, okay, as a creature, because it doesn't live in the desert, it lives in your house. You might recognize these, and they're meerkats. They can live in the desert. They don't just spend their time advertising on the telly. Okay, or you could choose a kangaroo. Look at that, it's a little baby kangaroo in the pouch. Right, so any of them will be fine. And then you're going to find out about it. So you just get yourself on the internet and find out where they live and what they eat, and if they have how they are able to survive in the desert. And you write a paragraph like my one here. This is an example, and then you photograph that and send it to me. Okay, so here's mine. The creature I've chosen is a type of snake called a Sidewinder. It only lives in the deserts of the southwest of the USA. I've spotted a mistake, Mr. Boll. Look at that. There's a capital there, and it shouldn't be there. It only lives in the deserts in the southwest of the USA, like the Mojave Desert, and in the north of Mexico. They eat lizards, small rodents like mice or rats, and small birds. Sidewinders are adapted to live in the desert. Firstly, they are very well camouflaged. Their markings are sandy coloured, as you can see here, so the small creatures they want to eat can't see them. Secondly, when the wind starts blowing in the desert, it's hard to see because the sand gets in your eyes. The Sidewinder has two small flaps of skin, one above each eye, that it uses to protect its eyes when it needs to. Okay, so there you go. That's task number 2 for you. Choose a creature. Up to you. Okay, then when you've chosen your creature, you're going to send me a paragraph that includes where they live, what they eat, and how they are adapted to live in the desert. Okay, that's task number 2. Task number 1, you can either do a homemade map or print the one from school and mark on there using Google Earth all of these 7 deserts. Okay, fantastic. Well done. And when you've got that ready, send it to me, and I look forward to hearing from you. All the best. Bye now.